Hello and welcome back. In this episode, we will take a look at the new things in SAS Viya 2024.09. We have new things in SAS Visual Text Analytics, a bunch of stuff in SAS Studio, and so much more. So let's get going. Here we are inside of a project inside of Model Studio that uses text analytics. I have already pre-built the pipeline for us so we can get right into what's new. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this on the concept node, but this is also available in other interactive nodes like topics and categories. So if we go to open the node, we are greeted with the familiar interface that you might know and love, where you can easily edit concepts, try out the sandbox, things like this. Now you have the added benefit at the top right-hand corner to switch from this kind of standard layout that we call the tile view to a side-by-side view, where you get a lot more real estate and, to me, a much more intuitive way of writing my concepts. So I can write them on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I see all my document, I can look at the matches, and it feels much nicer to me to build out my concepts in this way. I think this is a great way of enabling us to build better and faster rule-based text analytics models, so I really appreciate this feature. With that, I want to switch over to SAS Studio, where we have a lot of new stuff. And I want to focus on two key things. But first, let me go through all the new features that have been introduced. So we get 3 new steps in the statistics category, one new step in manage models called the assess model, a super popular step. I'm sure we get the ability in prepare data to transform columns. We get a random forest node in the machine learning category, and we get a community detection step. Now the big one for this release is in the integrate section for SAS Studio Engineer is the lookup step. This is one of the most popular steps I can imagine for all the data engineers out there, with the ability to connect a source table and multiple lookup tables and then be able to identify key columns, find corresponding values, add them, and of course also have the ability to create error and exception tables. This provides so much functionality, and this is going to really unlock a lot of data engineering capabilities and makes them much easier to use through this visual interface. Now, you might know from the custom steps segment that I am a huge fan of building custom steps. And in this month's release, we get an awesome new feature for all us custom designers. So let me first open up the quick start, where we just get an empty custom step, and we have a new common control interface, the option table. The option table enables you to define a table where people can even enter values or even add rows to that table. So let us first walk through what this thing is actually capable of, and then take a look at what I built with it. And if you are interested, leave a comment or reach out to me and let me know if you would want to see a deeper dive in what else could be possible with this new input control mechanism. For this, I'm going to switch to full screen as we're going to be working on the right-hand side a lot. Of course, we are starting things off with the 2 classic, the ID, which will translate into the macro variable name in our step, the label, how the object will be named for your step user, and then we start off with the first big decision that you are enabled to do here. We get 3 choices about how this table looks like. We start off with the default of the step author defines columns and rows. This enables you as the step designer to create a static framework into which your users can put their own spin into or select things from a dropdown. The next one is the step author only defines the columns, meaning the user can add rows on their own. So you can actually have them add a lot of more of additional data in the column structure that you define. And the last one is even giving them the ability to add columns. So super flexible data entry mechanism, basically. Now, we are going to leave it for now at the step author defines columns and rows, as I think that's where most people would start off with. Here, we can set the number of default rows that will be displayed to the user. Now, because we have set it so that we put everything in here statically, the minimum rows and maximum rows are grayed out. No more changes here needed, as your user will only have the ones we specify. Let's put this up to 4, and you will see why in a second here. And then we can go ahead, next option, show column labels. This would then remove the header. I would always encourage you to have column labels to give your user a better idea of what they are seeing here. And next we come to the table columns. Now you can see we already have one column in here. That's the one we see here already. And we can also add additional ones. Before we do that, let me first take a look at that ability around the columns. So we can first define its control type. The numeric field and the text field are ones that are very familiar to us from other inputs that we already have within the step. Just kind of reduce what people can enter. We have the validation field, which enables us to introduce a regular expression or regex to validate the input of the user before accepting it into our code and running it. Super awesome feature. And then finally, we can also provide a static dropdown. Also very familiar to you from the dropdown list input control. So you can also assign a value and a label to it, or just have it be the same. All those things are of course possible. You can also always set if it's required. You can set minimum, maximum values. You can set defaults and placeholder tags, all the things we know and love from other controls, basically. And as you saw, we can have up to 4 different types of columns here. And then, of course, the next step is to actually work with this feature. For that, like a chef in a kitchen cooking show, I have prepared something for us. And this here is my entry form, basically, enabling my user to enter information and have it be put into a table structure that is standardized and that they can then build on top of, or you could even think of it as appending to a table. Now, the first one is the email address. And here I want to show the regex feature. When I enter an invalid email address and click go, you can see I get an invalid entry warning, and it won't even let me submit the actual step. So that validation really takes care of me here, and I'm going to just enter test at test.com. Now we have a valid looking email address. We can enter a username here, but as you can see, that one is optional. We have an input control, and we also can select a value. Now, if we run this, we will take a look at the behind the scenes here in a second. We get back, in my case, to table outputs, and let me open them up from the work library so we can talk a bit about them. The first one, step macro values that I have here, basically demonstrate that you, of course, can programmatically pull all the meta information around your table. Like how many columns does it have? How many rows? What are the names of the different columns? All of these kinds of features. And the second one, my options table, is just a demonstration that you, of course, also can pull programmatically all the content from that control item. Super awesome feature. I really love it. It's so cool, and it enables so many ideas that you can build on top of. And I want to also take a quick look at the code, just a quick one. If you want a deeper dive, leave that comment. And here we can see those different macro variables pause the screen or give me a comment if you want to see a deeper dive. Now, let's switch over to the awesome new articles in the SAS community library. First up is a intense article around using SWOT to generate code and executing it in SAS Viya using Azure, OpenAI, and LangChain, and then understanding and evaluating how good the generated code is. Super awesome post. I highly encourage you to check this one out. The next one is for anybody interested in understanding a bit more around logistic regressions and the output that these models generate within SAS Viya. You get a cool deep dive into this. The next one, also again for SAS Studio users, if you want to know how you can build up a shared snippets library within your group, your company, your organization, then this is the post for you. You should follow this guide. And the final one is basically a go-to page if you want to learn new tricks and tips around SAS Visual Analytics, where this is the main page article that will take you to all the different sub-tips, and I'm sure as new ones are added, they will also appear on this main page. Now, this month, we don't see a new custom step contribution, so that gives me the ability to talk about two different topics that I want to introduce you to. The first one being sassoftware.github.io. This page highlights different projects that the SAS software organization on GitHub kind of has built out, and there's awesome featured projects on there. You can also take a look at new projects, updated, and the most forked ones. So a really cool comprehensive site to see what's going on with open source contributions from SAS. And then finally, a reminder about developer.sas.com. If you want to program anything API or open source within the SAS Viya ecosystem, this is the place to be. Check it out. There's so much stuff to learn on here. So many cool tricks, tips, use cases, sample code that really enable you to build out awesome applications and enhance your developer experience within SAS. I hope these new features get you excited as much as they do me. It has been an awesome release this month with a lot of cool new capability, especially for data engineers and those that love to build custom steps. See you next time. Bye bye.